When this spoiled noble brat thought she could do whatever she wanted, pouring sewer water on our MC, kicking him, telling him to know his place. What she didn't know was that this would be the biggest mistake of her life. He slaps the shit out of her when she tries to fight back. He gives her another reality check. Of course, like the spoiled brat she is, she called for backup, calling the Grand Steward. The Grand Steward immediately comes rushing in and asks what happened. That's when he pulls the Uno reverse card. Her father grants him the right to employ whatever method he chooses. That's when he plans another surprise for her. In the dead of night, he storms into her room, drags her out of the mansion, and throws her deep into the woods. Then he says the one thing that makes her blood run cold. He was never there to help her. He only took the job because he enjoys crushing arrogant nobles like her. The moment Derek pulls out his sword, Yahello realizes this might not be a lesson at all. It might be her execution. She runs for her life through the dark forest, but Derek chases her like a predator, hurling fireballs and ice arrows that explode all around her. With death right on her heels, Yahello is pushed further than ever before. Cornered, exhausted, and drowning in fear, she finally breaks and reveals the pain she has hidden for so long. But just when Derek swings his blade to end it, something unbelievable happens. A wall of ice bursts out and saves her. In that terrifying moment, the girl who was mocked as useless finally manifests mana, and Derek realizes Yahello was never talentless at all. But how did Derek learn his magic? In the town of Ebelstein, there is an old fella living in the slums, and he can only use one-star magic, but he brags so much about being a great mage. As if this isn't enough, he even has a nasty temper, and he would lose his cool whenever kids tried to tease him. This grumpy old fella is who our MC, Derek, decided to learn magic from. Apparently, Derek only chose to be the man's student because he needed followers, and he, on the other hand, needed knowledge. The old man would stand to watch Derek practice his magic, and with a smile on his face, he realized that Derek was talented since he could sense the flow of mana. Derek was able to put this to use and create an ice spear, which he hurls at a tree in the distance, sending shivers down the old man's body. Thanks to this, Derek spent the next year in the old man's house, and while doing all sorts of errands for him, Derek ended up becoming a one-star mage. One night, the old fellow sat him down to tell him that past the northern wall of the town, there are reportedly nobles who have reached 3 stars even before the legal drinking age. The old man tells Derek that reaching a level like this might never come for someone like him. He tells Derek not to get cocky because with his skills, he will collapse the moment he hits the wall of 2 stars. He tells Derek that magic is all about bloodline, and no matter how hard one struggles, it is all futile. Derek continues hearing the old man tell him things like not being able to reach where the nobles will ever reach, and Derek believes this was all a manifestation of his longing for everything he never managed to achieve. That very night felt really long, and the next day, when Derek returned to their place, he found the old man dead. His body was covered in bruises, which were signs that he had been beaten. Derek assumed that the old man picked a fight somewhere and got himself badly beaten, but he later learned that the old man had been beaten by the guards because he tried to steal a 2-star spellbook from a warehouse, wondering why the old man with no ambition would try to steal a spellbook. Derek remembers the old man always preaching about bloodlines, but for Derek, he can't even have noble blood. Just then, a status screen appears in front of Derek, telling him that he has unlocked the basics of magic and he is expected to choose his primary school of magic. However, the system informs him that he cannot make any changes to his decision again. It turns out that Derek is not originally from that world, and before he knows it, 4 years passed by again. Derek ends up becoming a mentee under a lady named Katya Flameheart, who is the former mistress of the now fallen house, Flameheart, which was a viscounty. Katya was born a noble and a 3-star mage, which is why many mercenary groups wanted her. While she was staying in Ebelstein, she took contracts through the Belden Mercenary Corps, and she was the one who taught Derek how to use 1-star magic. Derek was able to learn a whole lot from Katya, since she is a 3-star mage. During one of their lessons in Belden's tavern, Katya tells Derek that it is natural for a mage to develop a desire to rise higher, and she lets Derek know that he has that kind of talent. She also tells him that excessive greed will slow his progress, and Derek assures the lady that he is going to keep this in mind. After the theoretical lecture, Katya tells Derek to close his eyes and feel his mana, and he should calmly sense where the mana is generated. She wants him to think about what kind of flow it has, and think of it as using mana to bring the image he is imagining into reality. Derek does this, and a blue wave of mana appears around his body that ultimately convinces Katya that the boy has a considerable amount of innate mana. She also notices that Derek's mana is stable, and she believes that this is because he has a lot of field experience. Just then, Derek opens his eyes, and a loud bang goes off in the distance, sending everyone in the building into panic. The mercenaries rush outside asking what just happened. Some believe that they are under attack, and Katya grabs Derek's hand, telling him to keep quiet and just follow her. Katya takes Derek to a private place and tells him to listen carefully to what she is about to tell him. She reminds Derek that nobles are sensitive about their privileges, and magic is the greatest privilege among nobles. She mentions that people treat innate strength like a blessing, but this only applies to nobles. She lets Derek know that it is very rare for a commoner to reach 3 stars, and any commoner who is able to achieve this has devoted their entire lives to magic. With a subtle voice, Katya tells Derek that what he just used was a 2-star delusion-type spell called Auditory Hallucination. Without even realizing it, Derek had become a 2-star mage at the age of 14, and after that, Katya traveled around with him, passing down various spells. In fact, she even taught him about the high society she used to be in when she was a noble. Before he knew it, another year passed, and Katya left. Apparently, the county of Elvester appointed her as a private tutor. House Elvester is a really prominent house that even the capital's Grand Duke is respectful of, because they had Count Elvester on their side. And for Katya, it was an offer she could not refuse because becoming the magic teacher of a noble at that level was a big blessing to anyone who was given the opportunity. However, she left Derek with a 2-star spellbook as a gift. On the status screen, Derek has obtained a series of magic spells, but most are still low-level spells that need more development. 1 year later, Derek had taught himself really well enough to have mastered 2 more 2-star spells, and by this time, he was already 16 years old, but he still had no intention of stopping there. Later on, Derek visits the mercenaries' tavern, and the leader of the mercenaries' corps, Jaden, tells Derek that they have finally landed a proper request for once. Derek asks him what kind of request it is, and he lets him know that it is a request from House Duplain, the Grand Duchy, which obviously means a big deal. Even Derek is surprised by this, and he asks why they would hire mercenaries like them. Jaden berates Derek, telling him that he doesn't care about their reasons as long as they are getting paid. He mentions that Duplain has enough money to go around as if it were water, and Jaden tells Derek that they can even use this to build more connections in the future. Derek then asks Jaden what they are supposed to do, and Jaden tells him that the request is not something crazy because they are to subdue a few monsters on the outskirts of the Grand Duke's territory. Derek is surprised that this is all the request, and he lets Jaden know that something feels really off. Derek tells Jaden that it is pretty suspicious that a family as big as Duplain is asking a mere mercenary corps to clear out monsters. Derek immediately gets up to walk out of the room after telling Jaden that he is not interested in the contract. Jaden screams at him to stop, and Derek tells Jaden to call someone else, since he knows that he doesn't take shady jobs. Jaden tells Derek that he would have preferred to do the task himself, but it appears that the family needs a mage, and mages are scarce among mercenary corps these days. Jaden tells Derek that he is the only one who can do it, which is why he called him. Derek tells Jaden that it is pretty suspicious that they need a mage to kill a few monsters, which is why he is not ready to get himself entangled in something so unnecessary. Just then, Jaden throws Derek 1 gold coin as an advance fee, which immediately causes Derek to rethink the whole thing. Not long after this, 3 fellows show up, and one of them has a hood to cover her face. Jaden introduces them to Derek as the clients, but the old man among them immediately refuses Derek, saying he is a child. The old man tells Jaden that he was expecting something better, not a child. Jaden then tells the old man, who is a supposed dispatch officer, that Derek is the real deal because he is the best mage that he knows. The old man refuses, and just as he is about to leave, the lady whispers something to him which forces him to change his mind. After this, they head out to the plains to hunt monsters, and Derek easily dispatches a few goblins. Derek shows great athleticism and immense magical power as he easily turns the goblins into trash. After he is done, the dispatch officer commends him for being able to take down so many goblins in such a short time. Later on, when Derek returns to the tavern, one of his colleagues, Pauline, screams at him for becoming a noble's lapdog. Pauline reminds Derek that no matter what happens, they are not supposed to bow to trash nobles. Jaden tells Pauline that the job paid really well, and she demands to know how much it was. The moment Pauline hears that Derek got 1 gold, she immediately starts screaming to be involved in the whole business because she can also crawl under a noble's legs. Jaden screams at her to shut her mouth, telling her that crawling under their legs isn't even part of the job. After Pauline has drunk herself to sleep, Jaden asks Derek how the request went, and he replies that it was nothing special because he only killed a few goblins, and before he knew it, the job was already over. Jaden tells Derek that their first impression might have been trash, but it appears that they have money. Derek confirms this, but believes that they are lying. Derek says the noble dispatch officer said he was looking for exactly 3 things: youth, stamina, and socializing ability, but he had none. And the woman who called herself a kitchen maid had clean hands for someone who was supposed to be doing rough work. Derek is about to continue listing out his observations when Jaden stops him, reminding him that they are mercenaries and they don't need to dig into their client's business. Basically, they take the job, do it, and get out. Derek agrees with Jaden because the world is wild, and in the wild, making a living is all that matters. The following day, Derek helps kill some more goblins, and Jaden excitedly asks for payment since his junior has done a great job already. Jaden is handed the payment of 2 gold coins, and he almost loses his mind in excitement. Just then, the dispatch officer tells Derek that he values his skills and would like to entrust him with a new request. He asks Derek if he is interested, and this confuses Jaden and Derek. To skip all the formalities, the old man tells Derek that he is going to get 15 gold coins for the request. The moment Derek hears the amount of money being offered, he immediately accepts the task without even knowing what it is yet. Not long after this, they head to the Duplain's estate. Jaden is blown away by how magnificent the estate is, but Derek just keeps his mouth shut while observing the whole area. The old man then tells the two that he would like to introduce himself before they proceed inside the estate. The old man then reveals that his name is Delon, and he is the Grand Steward serving Duc Duplain. Delon apologizes for concealing his status, revealing that it was due to the nature of his work. The old lady also introduces herself, saying she is Katerina, the head maid, and not a regular kitchen maid. Jaden is blown away by this, and he immediately bows his head to offer his greetings while introducing himself too. Derek is not entirely surprised because he already expected this, and this basically tells him that the lady under the cape is of high status. Just then, the lady takes off her cape to show her beautiful face. With a bright smile on her face, she introduces herself as Aisline Eleanor Duplain, and she tells Derek that she wants to appoint him as a magic tutor for her younger sister, Diella. Derek hears this, and he is stunned that he is being hired to become a tutor for a noble lady. Meanwhile, Duplain is seen in his office talking to his eldest son, Valerian. They are in the middle of this meeting when Valerian's brother, Reg, bursts into the room with anger. Duplain urges his son to conduct himself, but Reg screams back, saying Diella is the one who needs this advice. Reg mentions that Diella has gone too far and has started beating the servants he hired. Valerian urges Reg to lower his voice, telling him that he is in a meeting with their father. However, Reg is not ready to hear that, and he tells his father that 10 servants have already quit in the last month, and this is all thanks to Diella's behavior. He adds that Diella is always smashing things whenever she feels like it, and with a daring voice, he asks his father how long he plans to continue turning a blind eye to Diella. Valerian can no longer take Reg's rude courtesy, and he screams at him to leave the room. Reg continues by telling his father that it is time they let Diella go because they have Aisline. Duplain then tells Reg that what he just said is not for him to decide. Reg continues by saying there is a monastery that has been checked out by Delon, and it is a place Diella can go. Reg believes that instead of Diella being a burden, it would be better if she devoted herself to God's will. He continues talking out of line, forcing Duplain to stand up and smash his head into the table, reminding him that he already told him that the decision to let Diella go is not for him to make. Even with how scary his father speaks and looks, Reg still lets him know that he has to decide on Diella's fate at some point. At the same time, Derek and Aisline are making their way into the main castle, and Aisline asks Derek if he has heard about Diella. Derek replies that he saw her in the Duplain family's registry, and Aisline holds her head down dejectedly, saying Diella is not well known to the public. Just then, they run into Valerian and Reg, and Valerian asks Aisline how her experience in Ebelstein has been. Aisline humbly replies that she has been living comfortably thanks to his care. Valerian then suggests that they catch up later because he needs to attend to Reg, who is hurt. Upon entering Duplain's office, Aisline greets her father, and he mentions how he heard about her exploits in Ebelstein. With a smile on her face, Aisline tells him that it is all thanks to him, and she lets him know that Derek is the magic tutor she brought from Ebelstein, who is going to be in charge of Diella. After introducing Derek to Duplain, Aisline tells him that they are going to take their leave so they don't disturb his busy time. However, Duplain tells Derek to stay behind. After Aisline is gone, Duplain expresses his surprise that Derek is still a young lad. He then asks him if he can handle magic to some extent, and Derek humbly replies that he can use a bit of one-star magic. Duplain takes off his glasses to get serious with Derek, telling him that he has no reason to lie because humility doesn't always come off as a sign of virtue. When Derek hears this, he realizes that he is standing in front of a 5-star mage, and humility won't really work on him, just as he said. Derek then apologizes just in case he comes off as a disrespectful lad, and Duplain tells him that it is fine because he knows why he carries himself that way. Duplain tells Derek that judging by his attire and age, he doesn't look like someone who is suited to be a magic tutor, and Derek replies that he is actually a mercenary. Duplain then tells Derek that he won't pry into his business, since Aisline was the one who chose him. He assures him that he is going to grant him access to the annex where Diella lives. Duplain then tells Derek that he can leave, and he will have a maid lead him. However, Derek tells Duplain that he has one thing to ask him. Duplain tells him to go ahead, and Derek reminds the man that he is a mercenary, which means if he takes a job, it is his duty to see it through. Derek mentions that he was hired so that Diella can learn magic and enter high society as a proper noble. Duplain asks him why he is stating what is obvious from the get-go, and Derek tells him that he has a request to make of him. Meanwhile, in Diella's room, she is acting all saucy toward her maid, throwing all sorts of trash at her, while the poor girl can only apologize. Diella screams at the girl to leave, threatening to ruin her face if she ever shows up in her room again. On the other hand, Jaden is seen talking to Aisline, asking her why she chose Derek, because he is pretty sure that magic tutors would be fighting to have a chance to be Diella's teacher. In addition, Jaden believes Derek is going to have a hard time mentoring Diella since he is a commoner and she is a noble. Aisline then reveals that she has tried all sorts of magic masters on the entire continent, but they all gave up in the end, which is why she opted for those who can use magic but are under desperate circumstances. She knows that Derek might have the background of a mercenary, but she believes that he knows about how nobles conduct themselves and even their culture. Jaden then reveals that Derek's master was a fallen noble who used to be quite successful, and he believes that Derek learned all sorts of things from him. Aisline finally realizes why Derek was refined and kind despite being a mercenary. Aisline believes that Derek might be able to gently rein Diella in and even lead her, thanks to his past experience. Jaden then tells Aisline that she has to do better in reading people because Derek is a mage who grew up on the streets and has been working as a mercenary even before he came of age. Jaden asks Aisline if she thinks someone from the streets can survive on nothing but refinement and kindness. Later on, Derek is led to Diella's room, and after knocking on the door, he steps into the room to offer his greetings and introduce himself. Diella is sitting across the room, and she tells him to come closer. Derek does as told, and as he gets closer, Diella lets off an evil smile as if she is planning something. Just as Derek gets into close proximity, Diella pours stinking water on him, mocking him by calling him a sewer rat. She continues by saying all sorts of trash, and she decides to stand on her chair so she can look down on Derek. She carries another bucket of stinking water and pours it on Derek's head, telling him that she prepared the water beforehand. While Diella is doing all these, Derek remains silent, and not long after this, Diella runs out of stinking water to pour on Derek. Seeing how silent Derek is, Diella gets pissed off and kicks him in the chest, causing him to fall on his arse. She goes ahead to remove her shoe and drop in on him, telling him that he stinks. Diella then returns to her seat while urging Derek to know his place as the sewer rat that he is. Before coming to Diella's room, Derek had a deep conversation with Duplain, letting him know that Diella's problem can't be resolved easily. This was when he asked Duplain if he was willing to grant him full authority when it came to teaching Diella. Now, back in Diella's room, Derek gets back on his feet and lands a resounding slap on her face, sending a wave of shock through her body. 3 years earlier, Derek was traveling with his master Katya, and he asked her what she would do if she had to teach a student who didn't appreciate her kindness. Katya mentions that she would try to understand them and embrace them and even take them in. Derek believes that this is too idealistic, and he asks her what she would do if the student didn't want all of that. Katya then reveals that the essence of teaching is to lead a student in a better direction, and if he can't communicate through understanding and acceptance, then he should find a different starting point. Derek asks her what she means by this, and she tells him that he has to carve fear in the said student. Now, in the present day, after slapping Diella, Derek tells her that she has to treat others with consideration and respect. Derek doesn't stop there, and he tells her to get back up because he doesn't like repeating himself. Diella angrily stands up and slaps Derek on the cheek, asking him why a lowborn like him would dare lay his hands on her. Before she can even finish saying this, Derek slaps her again, telling her that he is also not going to make her repeat things. Diella smiles when this happens because she believes that she finally has Derek where she wants him. She immediately screams out, calling for Delon, telling him that Derek laid his hands on her. Delon and the maids rush into the room, asking Diella if she is fine. Delon then walks up to Derek to scold him, asking him what he thinks he is doing by laying his hands on Diella. He lets him know that there is going to be trouble if Duplain finds out, but Derek whips out a written note from Duplain, telling Delon that he already received permission from Duplain to handle Diella's education, however he sees fit. After checking out the note that is written and signed by Duplain, Delon realizes that there is nothing he can do. When Valerian hears this, he rushes to Derek's room in anger to challenge him for touching his sister. He grabs Derek and is about to hit him when Reg stops him, telling him to have a civil conversation instead of resorting to violence. Derek calmly tells Valerian that he was given permission by Duplain. Reg also reminds Valerian that Derek is Aisline's guest, and it wouldn't make sense if he touches him. Moreover, their father allowed it. Valerian then tells Derek to follow him, while he urges Reg to stay back. As Derek walks out of the room, Reg subtly tells Derek that he heard about what happened, and he believes that Diella truly needs a beating before she comes to her senses. Reg pats Derek on the shoulder, telling him that he has nothing to worry about because Valerian won't go too far. Deep down, Reg is not happy with the fact that Valerian is still protecting their hopeless sister. Moments later, they arrive at the room where Diella was living before she was banished to the annex. There are paintings everywhere in the room, and Valerian reveals that Diella used to love drawing. In fact, she was always telling Valerian to help look at her drawings, and whenever he did, she would turn red from excessive blushing. Valerian then reveals that Diella never finished a drawing, and most of the time she would leave a blank space and only draw the parts she liked. Valerian apologizes for his earlier behavior, and Derek assures him that it is nothing. However, Derek wants to know why Valerian brought him to the room, and Valerian lets him know that he wanted to show him that Diella wasn't a child who deserved to be despised or beaten. Valerian mentions that Diella just started obsessing excessively over the bloodline at some point. In the end, she was driven out of the main house and locked away in the annex. Valerian says he has no idea why she turned out like that, but he believes that they have to do everything they can to stop her from being sent to the monastery. Valerian says he will be able to persuade his father to let Diella stay if she manages to learn even one-star magic. With a sincere voice, Valerian urges Derek to save Diella. Derek then tells Valerian that Diella didn't completely give up on magic, judging by the notes in the margins of the books he is looking at. He adds that the books on the distant shelf are all theory books from the School of Regulations. Valerian confirms this, saying nobles learn from the School of Regulations, and after a closer look at everything, Derek tells Valerian that he is going to try his best. Later that night, Diella is sleeping nicely in her bed when Derek shows up and pours water on her head, telling her to get on her feet. Diella cannot believe what just happened, and she believes that Derek has genuinely lost his mind. Derek ignores her and just grabs her by the hand, telling her to come with him. Diella cannot believe what is happening to her, but Derek just continues dragging her through the hall while the maids watch in shock. Derek soon drags her out of the estate into the woods, and once they are deep into the woods, Derek throws her to the ground. Diella believes that Derek has gone mad, and she screams at him, asking him who he thinks he is to be able to teach her. Derek then shocks her by telling her that he has no interest in teaching her magic, but he took the job because he enjoys beating up stuck-up nobles. Diella is shocked when she hears this, and she assumes that she has a problem hearing things right. Derek continues by telling Diella that being a tutor is more or less an excuse to beat up arrogant, high and mighty nobles like Diella. Diella still thinks it's all a prank until Derek whips out his sword as he tells Diella how nice it is to hear nobles scream. In fear, Diella asks Derek if he thinks he is going to be safe after doing what he plans to. Derek assures her that he is going to be safe because she is about to be sent to a monastery anyway, and there is no one who would believe what she says. Derek adds that he can easily apologize with his life if something big happens, since a commoner's life is not really worth much. With an evil smile on his face, Derek says he also has the option of running away because they would just forget about him really soon, since he would be doing the family a favor by getting rid of its headache. Seeing how everything has played out so far, it dawns on Diella that she might actually die, and she immediately sprints in the other direction, trying to get away from Derek. Diella figures out that Derek is going to easily catch up to her if she moves on the path that leads to the residence. Diella decides to dash into the woods, hoping to shake Derek off, since she knows her way around the woods. She then plans to run back to the residence once she is in the clear, and she is pretty sure that they are going to kill Derek for this. Suddenly, she looks back to see Derek conjuring a fireball, leaving her shocked, since a fireball is a 2-star magic. She wonders how Derek is able to use 2-star magic. Before she knows it, Derek hurls the fireball at her, but he intentionally misses. The fireball hits and lets off a big explosion that scares the living daylight out of Diella, and when she turns around, she sees Derek smiling like a maniac. Diella manages to get back on her feet, but she soon trips and falls to the ground again. Before she knows it, ice arrows start flying towards her, barely missing her. One even lands directly in front of her, showing just how close she was to death. Derek teases her, telling her that she is pretty quick, and it is hard to believe that someone like her who has been shut inside has enough speed to run. Diella ignores Derek and she starts running again, but at some point she starts to realize that she might not be able to escape from Derek because it is looking like he is going to catch up to her. Just then, Derek goes down on his knees to get a feel of the forest, and he realizes that it is the same one that he saw in the paintings. Derek figures out that Diella has been running around the forest since she was little. Derek realizes that Diella was able to feel the mana in the vast wilds and transfer the feeling into the canvas without even realizing it. Derek is in the middle of his deduction when Diella appears behind him with a stone, ready to crush his head. However, Derek is able to react quickly enough to slap the stone off her hand with his sword. Diella falls to the ground in fear, realizing that she is done for at this point. Derek tells her that he admits her spirit is admirable because she knows that it would be hard to shake pursuit, but she chose to strike back instead. Derek is confident that this wasn't an easy decision for her, and he lets her know that she doesn't have the strength to run anymore. With a scary voice and his sword ready for action, Derek asks her if she has any last words. Diella's pride surfaces, telling Derek that she has no intention of apologizing because she doesn't grovel like lowborns. Derek then asks her why she is so obsessed with bloodline, and she replies that she has nothing left if her great bloodline is taken away from her. Diella slams her fist into the ground, and with tears in her eyes, she asks Derek if he thinks she never tried to use magic, but no matter how hard she tries, it never works. Diella tells Derek that she has nothing else, once painting and magic are taken away from her. She tells Derek that the only thing left for her is the bloodline, and once this is taken away from her, she doesn't think she is anything useful. Derek takes a deep breath after hearing everything she has to say, and he whips out his sword, saying he's heard enough. Derek tells Diella that it is the end for her, and he swings his sword at her, ready to cut her down, but something shocking happens. Diella was already expecting her head to be rolling on the ground, but by the time she opened her eyes, she realized that she was still alive. In a shocking turn of events, there is an ice barrier surrounding her, which had stopped Derek's sword from reaching her. Diella is surprised when she realizes that the mana that created the ice barrier is oozing out of her body. Derek then sheathes his sword and he commends Diella for the good work while bowing to her and apologizing for his rudeness. Diella is stunned by everything happening, and Derek tells her that it may not be something she could truly call magic because what just happened is nothing but a manifestation of mana. But the baseline is that she still did it. Diella cannot believe her eyes, and she lets out a loud scream in frustration. After she is done crying, Derek starts to tend to her injuries, and he tells Diella that she is from the School of the Wild, but Diella is confused about what this means. Derek mentions that most nobles learn the School of Regulations, but he lets her know that in the end, every school of magic is essentially the same. However, the only difference is that it differs enormously in the process of understanding and mastering it. Derek tells Diella that she is from the School of Wild, and her effort to learn magic through the theory of the School of Regulations was only going to cause problems. Derek explains it in simple terms, saying Diella wasn't just trying to wear clothes that don't fit, but it was as if she was forcing herself into clothes that won't even go on her body. Diella then asks him how he knows that she is from the School of the Wild, and he reveals that he saw the drawings she made. He lets Diella know that she can feel mana drifting through nature, and she puts this into the canvas. He explains that mages born with the temperament of the School of Wild usually sense the mana in nature when they are very young. After he is done wrapping her legs, he lets her know that she should be able to walk. Derek tells Diella that she might have been able to manifest mana, but she still has a long way to go. He lets her know that starting from the next day, he is going to teach her how to manifest mana naturally. Surprisingly, Diella opens her mouth to thank Derek for the help, and Derek suggests that they return to the estate. On their way to the estate, Derek asks Diella if the sunset painting is her handiwork, and he lets her know that it was beautifully done. Diella mentions that it was her masterpiece, revealing that Derek is the first person to know that it was finished. The next morning, Diella wakes up and the first thing she tries is manifesting her mana, but she fails. She then gets up from the bed, and just as she opens her door, she runs into a maid carrying water. The maid accidentally spills water on her, and the moment the maid sees this, she believes that she is dead. Fear cripples her, and she falls to her knees, begging Diella to forgive her, because she committed a sin worthy of death. In a shocking turn of events, Diella simply tells her to watch where she is going. The maid is shocked when she realizes that Diella is not hitting her, and she is even leaving without doing anything else. The other maids soon rush over to check on their colleague, asking her if she is hurt or anything. She tells them that she is fine, revealing that Diella only told her to be careful, leaving the maids to wonder what happened to Diella after she went out the night before. Derek is still sleeping when he hears Diella banging on his door, telling him to wake up. Delon hears the noise, and he tries to calm Diella, telling her that she needs to watch her manners. Derek walks to the door, asking Diella what she wants, and Diella tells him to teach her how to handle the mana she manifested because she has tried on her own, but it isn't working. When Delon hears that she manifested mana, he is left stunned. But instead of Derek attending to her, he shuts his door and tells her to come back in the afternoon. Delon, on the other hand, has gotten emotional because Diella is finally growing out of her shell. Diella is not going to take no for an answer, and she continues banging on Derek's door, telling him to open the door, but Derek just returns to his beautiful sleep. Later on, Reg is walking through the hall when he hears the maids talking about the changes they have noticed in Diella and how she has even manifested magic. In no time, Valerian reports this to their father, saying he heard the information from the head butler, The man is relieved to hear this, but Reg believes that they are not supposed to jump to conclusions because Diella manifested magic. Valerian is pissed to hear Reg still acting indifferent, even though Diella just manifested magic and he is supposed to be praising her. Reg then reminds Valerian that Diella has done a lot up until that present moment, and a small result from her shouldn't be enough to brush aside the initial plan of sending her to the convent. That afternoon, Derek finally decides that it is time to tutor Diella, but he finds her sulking. Diella argues this, saying she is not sulking, but angry. Derek lets her know that no matter how much she acts all goofy, it is not going to change anything. Derek continues poking her with words until she finally bursts out in annoyance, saying she is angry. However, Derek's facial expression immediately causes her to rearrange herself. Derek goes to sit down, telling Diella that just because she manifested magic doesn't mean she can go around using it, or it will backfire. He assures her that he knows this because he has been through it. Derek tells her that just as learning is important, so is resting. Since she has rested enough, he believes that it is now time for her to study. Diella scoffs with a disgusted face, calling Derek a stuffy magic teacher, and with a serious face, Derek asks her if he should teach her in a way that is not stuffy. Diella immediately remembers everything he did to her in the woods, and this sends a scary chill down her spine. Trying not to go through that again, she immediately fixes her attitude, and Derek tells her that what they are going to do for the day is to practice magic manifestation. He tells her that once she can freely use magic manifestation, she will be able to learn one-star magic in no time. Derek adds that the School of the Wild has no rigid system, so it is ideal for self-study. He mentions that this is a school that pursues more freedom than the School of Regulations. Derek tells Diella that she actually suits the School of Wild quite well, and Diella asks her what it is he is talking about. Derek mentions that it is as he said it because her free-spirited nature has good compatibility with the School of the Wild. In addition to this, she was born with Duplain blood, which means she is overflowing with talent. Diella's face turns red when she hears this because she can't believe that Derek is seriously saying she is talented. Derek confirms this, saying Diella was able to conjure up an ice wall in an instant, which is an indication that she is overflowing with talent. Diella continues blushing as she concludes that she is a genius. Derek corrects her, saying that being a genius and having talent are different things, but Diella argues that they are the same. Diella continues arguing with him about this, forcing him to finally admit that she is amazing. Meanwhile, Reg is watching them, and he is pissed at the progress Diella is making. The following day, Diella rushes into Derek's room to tell him that she can now do magic manifestation, but she can't get the direction right. In subsequent days, Diella continues to get better in her magic usage, and she is always ecstatic every day she discovers something new. At some point, Derek leaves the annex to have a quiet time under a tree so he can read the book given to him by Duplain. Diella still shows up, asking him if he thinks her father gave him the book so he could slack off, and Derek says yes, revealing that it was because of this purpose that the books were given to him. Diella has no time to argue with him, and she just drags him back to the annex to show him what she has been able to do with her magic. Later on, Derek reports to Valerian's room because he called for him. Valerian is glad to see the dude, and he tells him to grab a seat so that they can talk. Valerian asks him how Diella has been coping in recent times, and Derek mentions that she's made progress, but learning one-star magic is going to take more time. Valerian then tells Derek that his mother has not been around because she went to a social gathering, but she will be returning the following week. Valerian then tells Derek that he needs to be careful because his mother is not someone he can take lightly. Valerian mentions that people in the estate are fine, but nobles obviously don't like commoners holding key positions. Valerian asks Derek if he knows this, and Derek assures him that he is going to keep what he said in mind, but he wants to know why he called for him. Valerian then stands up to walk to the window while telling Derek that he is the next head of the house, which means it is a position where one embraces and includes the members of their house. He says doing this means they must be sincere with every member. But he believes that this is difficult because a person's heart can be so deep and profound. He mentions that it would have been nice if everyone's thoughts and values were the same. But this isn't the reality. Derek is confused by all these, forcing him to ask the dude what it is that he is trying to say, and Valerian finally speaks up, saying Diella won't play with him. With tears in his eyes, he reveals that he remembers how she used to welcome him with a smile when they were little, and he is left wondering where one can find another angel like this. He walks to Derek with tears in his eyes, asking if there is some kind of way to win Diella's favor, and Derek asks him why he is asking him this. Valerian says it is obvious, since he is the only one Diella follows around. Just as he said, Diella is already out there, shouting at the top of her voice, calling for Derek. However, Valerian urges him not to leave yet, showing him the doll that he made for his sister. The doll looks so ugly and scary that Derek is forced to ask him if he is trying to curse someone. Valerian can only cry his eyes out while telling Derek that he is useless when it comes to things like this. Soon afterward, Diela's mother returns from her journey and she commends Derek, saying she's heard a lot about him. She introduces herself to Derek, and her name is Diela. Diela then tells Derek that she would like to send him a gift, and this is when Derek tells the woman that he is not affiliated with any house, confusing the lady. She is still confused when Derek cracks everything open, revealing that he is a commoner, and the woman immediately freezes in shock. A week earlier, Azaline had thanked Derek for his help so far, and this is because she is planning to return to Ebelstein, so she has to leave Diela with Derek. Jaden also teases Derek, telling him to wrap things up quickly and return to Ebelstein because Pauline will lose her mind if she hears what happened. Once they have said their goodbyes, the two leave in the carriage, and they have moved a bit before Azaline remembers something important. Jaden asks her what it is, and she reveals that her mother will be returning in a week, and she forgot to tell Derek about it. Jaden asks her why she has to warn Derek about her mother, but little does he know that Diela is considered the deity of anger. Now, in the present, Diela rushes to her husband's office to ask him why a commoner is Diela's teacher. The man is frustrated by her screaming, and he urges her to keep her voice down, but the woman continues yelling, reminding her husband that Diela is their youngest daughter. The man then reminds his wife that he also doesn't like appointing to positions, but every teacher with a good bloodline threw up their hands and gave up on Diela. Nonetheless, the woman doesn't think it is right for Duplain to take in a mercenary to become Diela's tutor. Duplain tells her that it is hard to find a decent magic teacher, and in addition, Azaline was the one who recommended Derek. Diela still doesn't want to agree with this, saying there should be some level of standard at least. She then reminds the man that they can hire his brother, Flam. Apparently, the dude was busy the last time they asked, but the woman believes that he should be available now. Duplain cannot believe that she is seriously suggesting they pull the person managing the territory and turn him into a private teacher. He asks Diela if she thinks running Ebelstein would work if they handle it carelessly. The woman then asks him what would happen to the social circle because it is also a war zone. She tells Duplain that a teacher is also needed socially, but using Derek as Diela's teacher would only make Diela a laughingstock when she is finally introduced to society. Valerian is forced to step in, urging his mother to calm down because she didn't come to the office to fight their father. However, Diela tells Valerian to step aside because this isn't something they can just let slide. Just then, Reg shows up, telling his mother that what they should be worried about is whether Derek is qualified to be Diela's teacher. Reg says a commoner becoming a noble's magic teacher isn't a normal situation, but he doesn't think it's going to be an issue if the commoner has the necessary qualities. Reg then tells his father that he would like to test Derek's qualities through a spar. However, his father cuts him off, telling him that Derek is the real deal when it comes to being a mage. Reg decides to push it to Diela, saying he would like to spar with Diela to know if Derek is a good teacher because he believes that she would have achieved some good results by now. Duplain couldn't say anything to this, and Reg walks off with the determination of sparring with his sister. Valerian runs after him, asking him what he is planning to do by having a magic spar against his sister. Reg then asks Valerian if he thinks Diela has really turned a new leaf. Reg reminds Valerian of what Diela has done, but Valerian tells him that no matter what, Diela is still their sister. He mentions that Diela is their blood, and they are supposed to hold her close and protect her. Reg only rages when he hears this, telling Valerian that Diela is bad blood because she is trying to bring down their house. Reg says it is going to be their end if Diela debuts in society the way she is. Valerian is surprised that this is how Reg feels about their sister, and Reg walks off, saying Diela was the first to cross the line, which is why she has to remain exiled in the annex. The next morning, Diela is the first to show up in Derek's room with the spar notification, telling him that if she loses the magic spar, he is automatically fired. Derek assures Diela that he already heard about this, and he also knows that Reg is a seasoned one-star mage, so it will be difficult for Diela to win. Diela is shocked to hear this, and she screams at him, asking him if this is all he has to say because he is going to get fired. Derek then reminds Diela that he is a mercenary, and he does the job that he is hired to do, takes the pay, and leaves. Derek shocks Diela by telling her that he has already been paid more than enough, leaving her ultimately shocked. 1 week later, the stage is set for the magic spar, and Duplain and other personalities are present. Derek welcomes Duplain to the arena, and Duplain is surprised that Derek doesn't look scared or worried at all, wondering if he is really confident. Duplain is impressed by this, and this just seals why he thinks Derek is important to the family. On the other hand, Reg steps into the arena with the aim of completely breaking his sister because he wants her to regret her past down to her very bones. 1 week earlier, after Derek talked about the whole being a mercenary thing, Diela had asked him if he truly didn't care what happened to her as long as he got paid. Derek then tells Diela that she should have noticed that her magic is growing quite well, and even if she can't use one-star magic immediately, it won't take her that long. He lets her know that she has the advantage because she was born with Duplain blood. Diela asks him why he is saying all of these, and he reminds her that he already told her that the School of the Wild is a school that focuses on self-study rather than passing things down. Diela is frustrated, and she yells at him, asking him why he is saying trash in an important moment. Diela finally calms down, telling Derek that she knows she is not the best of students, but she still wants to keep learning magic from him. With a sincere heart and face, she tells Derek that she doesn't want another teacher aside from him. Derek then tells Diela that he doesn't know the etiquette or rules for nobles' magic spars because he has never done one before, but he can teach her how to win in a fight. He asks her if she is ready to win, and the scenarios of what would happen if she fails start to play in her head. She realizes that an awful lot of things would be said about her if she loses, and with pure determination she tells Derek to make her win. Now in the present day, Diela reports to the arena not as Raig's younger sister or the youngest of House Duplain, but she is there as Derek's student and a mage. Once the two are on the stage and ready, Dylan tells them that they are going to be applying the sparring rules of the high-ranking mages of the Ebelstein-Kelbrem Salon. Any side that triggers General Pelham's protective magic circle first will be declared the loser, and once this is laid out, Dylan suggests that they begin the spar. Talking about General Pelham's protective magic circle, it is an accessory that activates right before the wearer takes major damage, ultimately nullifying their opponent's spell. Derek finally sees how nobles fight, and this is by using expensive accessories. Derek realizes just how nice it is to be rich because they can just throw money however they like. Since the duration of the spar is 10 minutes, Derek can see that Raig is gearing up to finish the fight before the time is up. Just as predicted, Raig starts to chant his spell, ready to hurl it at Diela because he really wants her back in the annex. He throws the attack at Diela, but Diela dodges the strike while changing positions. This pisses Raig off, and he throws another set of attacks at her, but she remains mobile, making sure she changes her position every time. Derek can see that Diela is handling the magic with ease, but when it comes to combat, Diela is still a complete beginner. One of Raig's attacks is about to hit her when she puts up an ice barrier to block it. Raig is surprised to see that Diela is not using star-ranked magic, but she is able to manifest magic power. Raig doesn't think Diela has what it takes to defend against him, and he doesn't think Diela thinks the same either. Raig figures out that he is just going to break through Diela's barrier, since it is nothing but a cheap trick. He then unleashes a powerful attack on Diela, and in that moment, Diela remembers what Derek taught her. He had told her that mercenaries fight differently from the way nobles do. Basically, mercenaries don't fight fair and square because their only goal is victory. Derek tells her that it is different from the way nobles fight, and if she manages to win, she might get criticized for it. However, this doesn't mean she cannot create an ending where she can win, and he asks her if she is fine with this, to which Diela says yes. Back in the arena, Diela is forced to run away from the ice barrier so she doesn't get caught in Raig's attack. Derek had told her that there are mercenaries who have won fights before, and this is because they were not dueling, but fighting with all they have. Diela remains on the run, while Raig fires long-range attacks at her endlessly. Derek tells Diela that what he means by fight with all is that mercenaries control the battlefield by making use of their terrain and surroundings. They basically use any and all available methods to seize victory. In fact, they must even take advantage of the short period that their opponent lets their guard down. Diela watches as an attack descends on her, forcing her to raise her ice barrier to block it. However, another attack is coming right behind her, and she didn't know this. By the time she realizes it, Raig believes that the fight is over and Diela is done for. The attack finally lands, and it lets off a huge dust covering where Diela was initially standing. Her mother freaks out when she sees this, believing that her daughter is done for. She screams at Dylan to stop the match because Diela is hurt, but her husband tells her to sit her ass down because the duel is not over yet. The woman doesn't believe this as she points out the fact that Diela was just struck by Raig's attack. Duplain tells her that she is wrong because Pelham's magic circle didn't activate, and Duplain also notices that Derek didn't even blink when the entire thing was going down. This tells the man that Derek already knew just how much Diela had grown. On the other hand, Raig is also worried that something is wrong because the magic circle didn't activate, and he is pretty sure that his last attack should have struck her. Suddenly, he notices that there is a crack in the floor, and before he knows it, ice spears emerge from under him. He barely manages to dodge the attack, and this is when he realizes that Diela has started attacking her from below the platform. However, by the rules, leaving the platform should count as a loss. Raig stares at Dylan, waiting for him to stop the match, but he doesn't. This is when it dawns on Raig that Dylan is not stopping the match because he considers the platform below as part of the arena and not outside it. Raig doesn't blame them, since no one would have believed that such a trick would be used in a magic spar between nobles. Raig is still thinking about all of these when another strike emerges from below, almost taking him down, but he dodges. The attacks continue coming, leaving Reg totally frustrated because he can't see where Diella is, and landing an attack on her would be really difficult. Diella basically has the advantage because she can continue shooting until she lands a blow on him. This is when Reg finally realizes that Diella is operating on a basis of no noble etiquette. His eyes finally lock in on Diella's eyes, and he realizes something dangerous in that moment. He realizes that she has a calm look on her, which was the same look that Derek had when Valerian challenged him the first time. Reg immediately figures out that everything wasn't Diella's plan alone because Derek must have been behind it. Since this is how things are going to play out, Reg decides to play along, and he takes off his coat, ready to put everything he has into the fight. Diella's mother is surprised when she sees her daughter operating from under the platform, which is basically a dirty place. She screams at her husband, telling him to stop the fight immediately, but the man refuses, saying no rules have been broken so they can just watch for a bit longer. While she is down there, Diella is able to see the flow of mana, and she takes advantage of this to send attacks at Reg. Reg is forced to start jumping around again, unable to use his incantations. Just when he is about to be cornered, he spots the pole standing in the middle of the platform, and he leaps on the pole. Just then, Diella notices that she can't sense the flow of mana again, and she immediately figures out that her brother is up to something. However, she is confident that the next time Reg tries to use incantations, she is definitely going to get him. Meanwhile, Reg has figured out that Diella can't react to his mana from where he is standing, but at the same time, he can't cast spells where he is, which means there is only one way out. He decides that he is going to destroy the platform without using incantations, and he shoots out a long-range attack to cut the pole from the base. The pole breaks and crashes onto the platform, and Reg uses the force from this to destroy a section of the platform. Reg also falls below the platform to have a proper fight with his sister. He spots her running through the dust, and he sends an ice arrow at her, but she blocks it. However, his attack becomes more intense, sending a wave of fear into Diella's body. Reg figures out that he has the advantage at close range, so all he needs is just one magic arrow, but before he knows it, Diella closes him down, kicking him in the chest. Reg crashes to his knees in pain, and while he is still suffering from this, Diella throws dust in his eyes, causing him further pain while also blocking his visibility. The moment Diella realizes that he is incapacitated, she uses the opportunity to climb back to the surface, and Reg figures out that Diella no longer has mana, which is why she is doing everything she can to win, even though it is quite impossible. Reg then gets on his feet to prove just how strong he is, since the duel was initiated for Diella to prove her worth in the first place. Moments later, Reg climbs back to the surface, and at this moment, Diella realizes that she is bleeding on the head. A drop of blood falls from her head, and this is when she remembers what Derek told her. He had told her to think of her mana as pain, while her spellcasting as her brush. He lets her know that she has to collect the free-floating paint with her brush to create an entire image, and this is exactly what is known as magic. Diella was blown away back then, as she watched Derek show her the flow of mana. Now that she is on the verge of losing, Diella locks onto what Derek told her, and with this, she is able to pour out her mana and feel it at the tip of her fingers. She follows Derek's analogy that her magic is her paint, and with this, she displays a refined mana with an ice spear, ready to be used. Delon and Diella are both shocked because what Diella is displaying in front of them is basically one-star magic. As Diella prepares for her ultimate attack, Reg also decides to go all out, and he pulls in all the mana he can before creating a series of ice arrows. Reg is confident that he is still a step ahead, even if his sister just activated a one-star magic. Reg plans to hit Diella before she hits him so he can finally win the match. Diella sends her spear toward Reg, and Reg responds with the multiple arrows he has waiting. Their attacks meet halfway, leaving a big explosion that shocks their mother. However, when the dust settled, a magic barrier had been triggered. 1 year ago, Delon informed Duplain that a letter arrived that morning, and it was regarding the upcoming social gathering. As they walk through the hall, Duplain spots Diella in her room, looking all sad and lonely. Now, in the present day, it turns out that it was Diella's barrier that was activated, and it dawns on her that she already lost. She screams out in tears and frustration while her mother berates their father for allowing such a vulgar spar to happen. While the woman is busy rambling and complaining, Duplain ignores her and focuses on his daughter because he recognizes something in her. When Duplain was younger, he was a fierce knight who was loyal to his king even in times of war. The king had told Duplain back then that he had the eyes of an ambitious person. Now that Duplain is looking at his daughter, he realizes that she has that same look of ambition in her eyes. The maids rush over to check on Diella, asking her if she is fine, but she keeps silent and continues crying. One of them wants to take her away to attend to her injuries, but she slaps her hand away. She walks down the platform and walks past Reg, who hesitantly commends her for a good job. The maids believe that Diella would head to her chambers, but she just continues moving until she arrives at where Derek is sitting. Once she is standing in front of him, she expresses her pain and frustration for losing. With tears in her eyes, she apologizes to Derek for losing. Derek gets on his feet and tells her that it is fine to lose, but he urges her to use the frustration to climb higher and grow stronger. Derek's words get to her and she cries even harder, while the maids stand behind, wondering what they can do to help. Just then, her mother shows up, holding her and sympathizing with her for what she went through. Diella wants to speak out, but her mother tells her that she doesn't need to say anything. She hugs her and urges her to get herself treated first. After she is gone, the woman walks up to Derek and she screams at him, calling him a vulgar wretch. She tells Derek that he might have made Diella a 1-star mage, but this doesn't mean he is impressive. Without hesitation, she slaps him across the face while saying all Derek did was teach her daughter cheap tricks. She grabs his shirt, telling him that he made the Grand Duke's daughter do something filthy, and she proceeds to slap him on the face again. She continues yelling at him, saying all kinds of trash words while telling Derek to have some dignity. Just then, Duplain shows up, and Diella quickly turns to him, expecting that he supports her. Duplain shocks her by landing a slap on her face, telling her that she is the one acting vulgar. Diella is shocked that her husband slapped her because of a mere commoner, and Duplain agrees with her that Derek is a mere commoner, but he is their daughter's teacher. He asks her what parent in the world treats their child's teacher like she just did. Duplain then turns to Derek, urging him to forgive his wife because everyone has their own way of loving their child. Derek takes a deep breath before telling Duplain that it is all right. Duplain then tells Derek to follow him because they have something to discuss privately in the audience room. As they walk away, Diella is left wondering what just happened to her. When they are finally in Duplain's office, he commends Derek for the good work he's done concerning Diella. He tells Derek that he plans to give him an appropriate reward, and he asks him if he wants the highest realm permitted to a commoner, which is 3-star magic. Derek is surprised that Duplain went straight to the point, and he figures out that Duplain knows him better than himself. Since Duplain is a 5-star mage, a Grand Duke of the nation, he has to seize every opportunity that comes from him. Without hesitation, Derek tells Duplain that he wants it. Before asking him that question, Duplain had commended him for teaching his daughter really well, but he let him know that the current level of achievement is not enough to survive in high society. Derek replies that there are a ton of people around who can guide Diella, and now that she has found her feet for it, he is pretty sure she will grow quickly. Duplain argues with him, saying that what his daughter actually needs is not an instructor, but a teacher. Duplain tells Derek that he can sense he is harboring an ambition so great that he is not even permitted to dream of it. Duplain tells Derek that he is willing to look the other way because it is him, and Derek is surprised that the man won't stop him from reaching even greater heights like 4 stars. Derek realizes that this is exactly what makes Duplain even more dangerous, and Duplain mentions that he is aware Derek won't be able to stay at the estate for long since he has an ambition to be great. He asks him if he is already prepared to leave, and Derek says yes. Duplain then tells Derek that he is not going to hold him back, but he wants him to teach Diella a little longer. This is when he finally asks him if he wants the 3-star, which is the highest realm permitted to a commoner. After the meeting with Duplain, Derek gets access to the library where he finds a 3-star book. He is blown away by this because there are many people who spend their entire lives trying to obtain a single 2-star spellbook, but he is somehow given access to a bunch of 3-star spellbooks. With this, Derek figures out that he has more reason to stay in the estate even longer, but he believes Pelline will lose her mind if she finds out. Later on, Derek meets with Diella, who starts boasting about being a 1-star mage. Derek lets her know that she only used 1-star magic once, but at the same time, it still counts. Diella yells at him, asking him if he is not glad that his apprentice has achieved progress because he is busy concentrating on the book he is reading. Derek doesn't give her a satisfying answer, and she just decides to back off. Derek commends her, saying she has recovered a lot over the past few days. He remembers that she was crying her eyes out after she lost her rag, and Diella tries to act like a tough girl, saying she wasn't crying because it was just dust in her eyes. In addition, she thought Derek was going to get fired, and she really wished her father had told her sooner that Derek wasn't going anywhere. Just then, Derek suggests that they start the day's lesson because she is already growing quickly and she will need to start learning other 1-star spells too. Diella quickly rides on this because Derek is basically agreeing to the fact that she is a genius. Derek mentions that her growth is uncommon to be able to use 1-star magic not long after magic manifestation. Diella milks this, telling Derek that she already told him that she is the kind of person who does what she says she will do. Diella starts to suggest a bunch of magic spells that they can start with, like Magic Arrow, which is convenient to cast without a chant. While thinking about the series of magic that she can use, Derek cuts in, telling her that she will be practicing magic manifestation, and Diella is shocked to hear this, since she believes that they are going to be learning 1-star spells. Derek mentions that there are many reasons for this, but in the end, the basics are what matter most. Derek is about to start going deeper when Diella finally agrees to do it because she believes that whatever he says is the right thing. She confesses that she was only excited for no reason because she believed that they were learning one-star spells. Just then, she notices that Derek is staring at her intently, and she asks him why he is doing this. She teases him, asking him if there is something on her face, but Derek says no, telling her that he is only surprised that she is listening so obediently. Diella replies with attitude, telling Derek that she has always respected his words from the beginning, but Derek reminds her of when she poured dirty water on him twice. Diella looks broken when she hears this, and she's surprised that Derek still remembers. To prevent the mood from crashing down, Diella starts acting all goofy, suggesting that they start the lesson for the day. The lesson continues till dusk, and Diella is already exhausted from learning too much. Derek then takes a break, telling Diella that he heard she is going to get busy from that moment forward. Diella confirms this, saying she has been told that by the following week she is going to be taking etiquette and general education classes too. Derek believes that this is a good thing because she has learned one-star magic and she finally has access to a true noble education. Diella lets Derek know that she is not happy to have to learn all the boring stuff like basic noble etiquette, foreign languages, geography, history, botany, piano, and even sewing. She wonders how Aislinn was able to endure all these things that she just listed. Derek is also marveled, and he lets her know that this is why Aislinn is called the Flower of Duplain, which is also why she is at the center of Abelstein's high society. Diella tells Derek that all she wants is to study magic, and Derek tells her to do this, reminding her that Duplain hired him, so they have plenty of freedom to throw around. However, Diella doesn't think that they are going to have that much time, and Derek asks her if there is anyone who is going to throw him out. Diella tells him that there is, and lets him know that her father might have acknowledged him, but her mother isn't the type to just let things stand. Derek is also baffled by this, and he asks Diella why her mother would want to drive him out. Diella mentions that her mother is most likely worried that if she learns from Derek, she is going to drift away from noble dignity and will end up becoming like a mercenary too. Diella tells Derek that from the spar it has nothing from what nobles call dignity. Derek then tells Diella that it is nothing special, and Diella is confused by this. Derek lets her know that silencing her mother is not as hard as she thinks because all they have to do is remove her excuse. Later on, Diella's mother is seen walking through the estate thinking about how Derek might be a bad influence on her daughter. Different scenarios start playing through her head, like Diella having gold teeth and running around hunting wild boars. Just thinking about the possibility of this makes her head really hurt, leaving her to wonder what Derek has to offer Diella. She knows that her husband might have acknowledged Derek, but at the same time she is still the mistress of the estate. The woman is thinking of what to do when Diella appears in front of her, and she already believes that Diella is going to run into her arms like she always does. Surprisingly, she notices something weird, and this is the fact that Diella is wearing a nice dress while greeting her in a noble way. Diella continues by saying she couldn't leave the annex while she was treating her injuries, and she apologizes for missing the chance to catch up properly. Diella even tells her mother that there is a lot she would like to talk about, but she has a piano lesson that morning. The woman is completely stunned by how Diella is carrying herself, and in no time, Diella tells her that she has to leave because her education schedule is quite tight. Before Diella leaves, her mother confirms if she has started taking etiquette lessons, since they start the following week, and Diella lets her know that it is just as she said. This leaves the woman wondering how Diella is able to know what she does without the lessons. After a short conversation with her mother, Diella leaves, and as she walks away, she even speaks nicely to one of the maids, telling her not to overstrain herself. Everyone, including her mother, just watches in awe and confusion, wondering what got into the young lady. Elsewhere, Aislinn is seen discussing with her friends in the noble district of Ebelstein. They tell Aislinn that she looked worried at the last gathering, but they let her know that she is currently different. Aislinn is surprised to hear this, and she tells them to forgive her because she has no intention of making them worry. She reveals that the majority of what she was worried about has been resolved already, so she basically feels much better. Her redhead friend, Elente Belmiard, is glad to hear this because she was worried when she heard that Aislinn went outside the noble district to save someone. Aislinn thanks her for worrying about her, revealing that it was her younger sister Diella who needed a magic teacher. She got busy because she had to go look for one herself, and when Elente hears this, she is shocked. She can't believe that Aislinn herself went to find a magic teacher, which means the teacher must be an incredible person. The other friend, Denise Veltis, chips in to confirm the story, and Aislinn lets them know that she saw Diella some time ago, and she's become a proper young lady that she could hardly recognize. She proudly mentions that her sister has manifested 1 star, and her conduct was so neat and composed that it made her feel like she needed to work harder too. Denise is surprised that Aislinn is bringing up her sister because the family was always hiding Diella. Denise then tells Azaline that it must have been due to the actions of the good magic teacher, and Azaline confirms this. She says he might not have status, but he is exceptionally capable, which is why it was worth going all the way to the Beldoon Mercenary Corps to find him in person. Elente is further surprised that the teacher is a mercenary. However, she is more interested in the fact that the said teacher was able to reform Diella from an unruly girl into a calm girl, who has even turned into a one-star mage. Elente then asks Azaline if she can ask her about the name of the magic teacher, and Azaline is initially hesitant when she hears the request. However, Elente tells her that the dude will end up becoming famous since he is Diella's teacher and all she just wants to know is his name before he becomes famous. Azaline then reveals that her sister's teacher is Derek. Back in the estate, Diella and her mother are having a conversation, and Diella tells her mother that Derek has been teaching her etiquette. She says it's been hard for her to learn etiquette on her own, but instead of admiring Derek's impact, Dibble says it is nice that she is studying on her own. Diella is not about to give up on forcing Derek down her throat, and she indirectly corrects her, saying it was all Derek. Dibble still refuses to acknowledge Derek, asking Diella what must have been hard for her to study by herself, and Diella lets her know that it was difficult, but it became easier thanks to Derek. At this point, the woman is crashing out inside because all she's been hearing since the start of the conversation is Derek this and Derek that. She is totally frustrated, and her zeal to get rid of Derek even gets stronger, but she needs to find a way. To make this worse for her, the servants are going about praising Diella, saying she's been so kind and gentle. Even the gardener tells the woman that Diella has been in such a good mood, and a whole lot has changed in a few weeks. As if this is not all, Delon also testifies that Diella has taken a totally different route, and sometimes he even mistakes her for Azaline. Delon believes that Diella is finally on the verge of becoming a true lady, and Dibble almost loses her mind because there is no opening for her to exploit. Later on, Derek is seen practicing his magic, but having difficulties when Reg shows up. He apologizes for interrupting his training, but Derek tells him that it is nothing to worry about. Derek then asks him what brings him to where he is training, and Reg reveals that he is there to talk to him about Diella. However, before saying anything, he notices the 3-star spellbook in Derek's hands. Derek tells him that Duplain was the one who lent it to him, and this shocks Reg to his bones. Derek mentions that it is a difficult level for him, but he believes that there is no harm in studying ahead of time. When Reg hears this, he finally understands what his father was saying when he told him that Derek is a true mage. Reg doesn't know what to say but to commend Derek and move past it. Derek then asks Reg what he came to see him for about Diella. Before even saying anything, Reg's face is already red, and he tells Derek that it is a bit complicated, but he wants to ask Derek if he knows anything that teenage girls like. Reg asks Derek if Diella would like it if he made a doll for her, and Derek immediately remembers the scary-ass doll that Valerian made. Without hesitation, he tells Reg that making a doll is out of the question. Reg agrees with Derek, reluctantly saying he has no intention of making one because he doesn't think it's going to be desirable either. Reg stands up, holding his head in frustration, before suggesting that they head back inside, since Derek is already done training. As they head back inside, Reg tells Derek that he is grateful to him because the mood in the household has been good in recent times. He mentions that Valerian has been focusing on managing the territory, and their father might not show it, but he looks pretty satisfied. Derek is surprised to hear this because he believes that Duplain's reaction is hard to read. Reg then tells Derek he is trying to accept what he didn't want to before because he has finally seen that people can change. He wonders if he didn't realize it sooner or if he was avoiding it. However, he is now prepared to change, since Diella has also changed. Reg tells Derek that it is all thanks to him, and with a sincere heart, he thanks Derek for his help. Reg then tells Derek that he notices that Diella's magic was different, and Derek is surprised that he noticed the difference. Reg expresses what he noticed, saying it was like drawing a picture, and when Derek hears this, he realizes that Reg is a genius, just like everyone who carries the Duplain blood. Derek then reveals that Diella uses the mana operation of the School of the Wild, and Reg says he's heard about this. Derek explains that each person's way of using mana differs, and he believes that once Diella reaches a certain track, she will study on her own without needing him to teach her anything. Derek tells Reg that at that level he might become a hindrance if he tries to interfere. Reg thinks about it for a minute and tells Derek that he understands where he is coming from, but he believes that Diella's time to shine will eventually come. 2 months after this, Diella is seen getting her hair done by one of the maids, and she plans to decorate her hair with nice flowers. Diella takes one of the flowers and she admits that they smell nice. Diella says she is now comfortable using 1-star magic and has even gotten closer to the servants. Diella says she's missed a lot all these while, and it is all thanks to Derek. The maid mentions that Diella looks exceptionally happy that day, and she asks her if she is excited because of her magic lesson. Diella is surprised to hear that her happiness is radiating all over her face, and she tells the maid to give her one of the leftover flowers so she can give it to Derek. However, Diella's happiness gets shattered that very day, and the flower falls from her hand when Derek tells her that he is leaving because there is nothing left for him to teach her. He lets her know that this is how the principles of seasons work because there is no eternal winter and there is no eternal spring. Later on, Derek meets with Duplain to explain things to him. He tells him that Diella belongs to the School of the Wild, which he is pretty sure he already knows. Derek tells Duplain that he is only going to clip Diella's wings if he continues to involve himself with her. Duplain takes everything Derek says into account because he is basically saying there is no reason for him to continue staying in the mansion. Derek confirms this, and Duplain takes a deep breath before standing up and walking to his window, saying many things have changed. He mentions that because of Derek, his daughter has been able to grow. He admits that he hasn't been a good father because he was so consumed with managing the territory, but he confesses that he is now relieved. Duplain then asks Derek when he plans to leave, and Derek mentions that he heard Aislinn will visit the mansion soon, so he plans to return with her to Ebelstein when she is leaving. After hearing this, Duplain tells Derek that he would have to return the library key, and Derek says he is going to return it alongside the spellbooks he is currently reading. He says he is going to give Delon the key, but with a stern voice, Duplain tells him that there is no need for that because he wants him to return the key at that instant. Since they are done with their conversation, Duplain tells Derek that he can leave, and after digesting the whole situation, Derek bows to Duplain to say goodbye. As he steps out of the office, he runs into Diella, who is pissed that Derek is leaving. Derek lets her know that it can't be helped, and even though she knows that Derek won't listen, she still decides to say it. She asks Derek if he can stay, and Derek takes a minute before walking up to her to tell her that he is a mercenary and he is just returning to his life as one. He lets her know that he is going to study magic too, and once Diella builds up more skill, she is going to come to Ebelstein for her debut. Derek comforts Diella with the idea that they are going to see each other when she comes for her debut. Derek even tells her that he will be more than happy to teach her something new if his level rises by then. Diella tells Derek that he is just so annoying because he knows how to say the right thing, which is why she has nothing to say back. That night, Diella has a nightmare about falling back to her old life, and she screams out in fear. She is sweating all over, but she has some sense of relief that it was a nightmare. One of the maids heard her scream and she rushed in, asking her if she was fine because she heard a disturbance. At this moment, Diella gets the temptation to create an excuse for Derek to stay. She thinks of beating the maid just like she did in the past, hoping that this will force Derek to stay. She is busy contemplating this when the maid asks her if she is fine, and Diella finally makes the adult decision not to fall back to her old ways. She assures the maid that she has nothing to worry about because she is fine because she already thought all about it, and she knows doing something like that won't make her valuable. When it is finally time for Derek to leave the estate, Aislinn prepares the carriage, and she tells him to say farewell to his student because they are going to be departing very soon. Derek turns around and realizes that Diella and her brothers are all waiting to see him off. Valerian asks him if he really has to leave, and he replies that he has to go back to where he came from. Reg understands that life in the mansion wasn't easy because he was required to work hard all the time. Valerian tells Derek that he is free to contact him if he ever needs help, and he is going to help as much as he can. Derek then turns to look at Diella, who is obviously not ready to talk to him. However, she is forced to talk when she realizes that Derek won't stop staring at her. With a frisky attitude, Diella asks him if he thinks she is going to beg him not to go because she is no longer a child. Derek lets her know that it was an honor to teach her, but he can't proudly declare himself her teacher. So he hopes that she will remember the magic she's learned from him. Diella corrects him, telling him that she is proudly going to tell everyone that Derek is her teacher, which means he won't be able to live quietly anymore. After all, he is the teacher of the great Diella Duplain. Seeing that she is already acting all nice, she turns around and urges Derek to take care of himself and not to pointlessly do anything dangerous. Derek assures her that he is going to be fine, and he urges her not to overexert herself too. Diella retorts, telling Derek that she is already an adult and she can take care of herself. Diella says this reminds Derek of when he said the same thing to Katya. However, Katya held him tightly, urging him to take her words to heart. Now that he is in the same situation as Katya, Derek walks up to Diella and pats her on the head, telling her that she doesn't need to become an adult so early. Derek's words hit so deep that Diella starts crying, and as Derek leaves, she finally calls him back to bid him a proper farewell, hoping that they see each other again. Derek bows to her, saying he would like them to meet again in Ebelstein. Later on, Derek arrives at the commercial district of Ebelstein, and upon entering the tavern, he finds the mercenaries acting like mercenaries. Pauline is busy beating up a dude, but she immediately stops when she sees Derek, and with a smile on his face, Derek tells her that he is back home. After Derek settles down, Jaden gives him an expensive wine to take, which is something the nobles like. He lets him know that he is giving him this as a welcome gift, and Derek thanks him for it. Pauline, on the other hand, asks Derek if he has always been this pale because he looks even worse after living at the Duplains estate. Pauline is interested in knowing what happened at the estate, but Derek simply tells her that there is nothing serious because he just worked there. Pauline still uses this to tease him, saying he now talks like a noble, but Jaden quickly cuts in, urging Pauline to chill out, while offering her a drink to bribe her. Pauline tells Jaden that she's just so pissed that she had to work all alone when Derek wasn't around. Jaden then tells Pauline that Derek must have brought plenty of money with him thanks to this. Jaden asks Derek if they paid him well, and he replies that he got something even more important than money. He shows them the spellbook that he got, and they are blown away by this. They initially believe that it is a 2-star spellbook, but Derek corrects them, revealing that it is a 3-star spellbook. The two immediately lose their mind, screaming at Derek and demanding to know where he stole it from. They tell him that he is a dead man if caught, but Derek clears the air, saying Duplain gave it to him. Pauline is shocked to hear this, and she grabs Derek, asking him if the estate is looking for an archery instructor. After the whole shenanigan is over and Pauline has fallen asleep as usual, Derek asks Jaden if there are any requests he can work on, and the dude is surprised that Derek just arrived, but he is already asking to work. Derek says he is ready to work even if it is something simple like monster subjugation and the like. Derek tells Jaden that he fears he's lost his edge a bit, but Jaden doesn't believe this because he doesn't think Derek is the type to lose his edge. Jaden admits that there is always a shortage of mages in their line of work, and since Derek wants to work, there is a lot of work to go around. Without wasting time, Derek tells Jaden that he would like to start the next day. The next day, Derek and Pauline head into monster territory to fight monsters. The two have perfect synchronization while taking out monsters, as they stand back to back to make sure that there is no opening whatsoever. They continue traveling to several areas, taking out monsters along the way, and by night, Derek tries to break into the 3-star level, but he still finds it difficult to do so. Even with failure, he still ends up creating a big explosion that almost shatters his hands. He figures out that he has gotten the hang of 2-star spells, but the wall to 3-star is really high for him. From summer, Derek and Pauline are out there taking on subjugation tasks till the harsh season of winter. When they finally return to the tavern, Jaden commends their strength, saying it is pretty good to be young because they have the strength to go back and forth on the Kent Mountains in such harsh weather. In fact, he believes that the two are the only ones crazy enough to bring back a harpy's head in such harsh weather. Pauline takes in a deep breath, confessing that she finally knows what it feels like to be alive. Jaden then suggests that they rest the next day, since they have worked really hard. Jaden then tells Derek that a request just came in that suits his taste. Derek asks what kind of request it is, and Jaden tells him that it is an expensive request, but a relatively easy one at that. It turns out that it was a request that got sent over from the Rohel Mercenary Corps on West Street, and it was from Count Belmiard. Apparently, they are looking for a commoner to help with magic sparring, which simply translates to that they are looking for a punching bag. Jaden lets Derek know that all he has to do is take a few hits, and that is it for the mission. The next day, Derek heads to the magic sparring arena, which is located in the Nobles District. Elsewhere, Alente is seen asking her teacher who she is supposed to spar with, and he tells her that they have arranged a commoner already. Alente is surprised that they are asking her to beat up a commoner, and the man tells her that it is part of her training. He assures her that they have promised the commoner sufficient compensation, so she is free to go all out. Alente is still not comfortable with the whole thing, and to make her feel better, the man tells her that the commoner can handle 1-star magic. However, Alente reminds her teacher that she is almost 2-star and there is a huge difference between 1-star and 2-star that can even be compared to heaven and earth. Later on, Alente meets Derek, who is going to be her sparring partner. Derek introduces himself to the lady, and the moment she hears his name, she realizes that she's heard the name somewhere before. After introductions, Alente's teacher suggests that they head to the arena, but Alente is left wondering if the dude is truly a mage when he looks so young. Upon stepping into the arena, Alente asks Derek if he knows the basic etiquette of magic sparring, and he says yes. Alente is glad to hear this, and she urges him to resist as much as he can. She assures him that she will try to end the fight as fast as she can, but at the same time, Alente is worried that Derek is going to get seriously hurt if she goes overboard. Derek then asks her how much resistance she is talking about, and Alente is annoyed by the question as she believes that it is ridiculous. Derek tells her that he needs to know how much he should resist so he can be helpful to her. Alente hears this and teases Derek, telling him that he has a funny way of talking, and she tells him to resist with everything he has. Derek hears this and immediately locks in, telling Alente that he is going to do as she commands.